Las Vegas is built on control. Every camera, every elevator, every slot machine, all of it runs on tightly controlled computer systems. Casinos don't just manage money. They manage millions of dollars moving every hour. September 10th, 2023. MGM Resorts, Las Vegas. Slot machines stopped working. Hotel room keycards suddenly failed. Digital restaurant reservations disappeared. Inside the security offices, employees were staring at something they had never seen before. Systems were going offline, one by one. At first it looked like a routine outage. Maybe a bad update. Maybe a network failure. But within hours it became clear this wasn't a glitch. MGM, one of the largest casino operators in the world, was under attack. And the most unbelievable part? The hackers didn't break through some sophisticated firewall. They didn't deploy cutting-edge malware. They didn't exploit some secret vulnerability. Instead, they simply picked up the phone. To understand how this happened, you have to go back several weeks. Because this attack didn't start inside MGM's network. It started on the open internet. The group believed to be responsible was a loose network of young hackers known as Scattered Spider. They weren't operating out of some secret underground bunker. Most of them were teenagers or people in their early 20s. And instead of breaking into systems with complex exploits, they specialized in something much simpler. Social engineering. Manipulating people. Convincing employees to hand over access themselves. Before targeting MGM, the group began doing something that sounds almost boring. They started researching employees on LinkedIn. Not executives, not CEOs, but the people most companies forget about when thinking about cybersecurity. Help desk technicians, support staff, IT contractors, anyone who might have the ability to reset passwords or unlock accounts. Because in most companies, those employees have one incredibly powerful ability. They can reset credentials. And once an attacker can reset a password, they don't have to hack their way in. The door is already open. At some point during the reconnaissance, the attackers found what they needed. An MGM employee profile. Name. Position. Enough information to sound legitimate. So one of the hackers did something incredibly simple. He picked up phone. He called MGM's IT help desk and pretended to be that employee. According to later reports, the entire call lasted around 10 minutes. The attacker claimed he couldn't log into his account. He said he was locked out. He needed his credentials reset. To the help desk technician on the other side of the line, it sounded routine. Employees get locked out all the time. It happens every day in large companies. But the person on the phone wasn't an MGM employee. It was an attacker who had done just enough research to sound convincing. And within minutes, the help desk reset the credentials tied to the employee account. Just like that, the hackers were inside MGM's internal systems. No malware, no zero-day exploit, no dramatic hacking scene, just a 10-minute conversation. And it gave the attackers access to one of the largest casino networks in the world. But what happened next is where the damage really began. Because once the attackers had access, they didn't just look around. They started moving through the network. Once the attackers had access, they didn't rush. They moved slowly, carefully. Inside large corporate networks like MGM's, attackers often spend hours, sometimes days, figuring out how everything is connected. Which systems control what? Where the sensitive data lives? Who has the highest level of access? Security investigators later believe the attackers began moving laterally through MGM's network, from one system to another, looking for ways to expand their control. And eventually, they reached something extremely valuable. Core internal systems. The kinds of systems that control hotel operations, digital services, and internal management tools across MGM properties. At this point, MGM's security teams began noticing unusual activity. Accounts accessing systems they normally wouldn't. Logins from unexpected locations. But by the time alarms started going off, the attackers already had what they needed. Access, control, and leverage. Because this wasn't just about breaking in, it was about extortion. The attackers deployed ransomware across parts of MGM's network. Files began locking. Systems began failing. And suddenly, the digital infrastructure of one of the largest casino companies in the world started shutting down. Within hours, the effects of the attack started spilling out into the real world. Slot machines stopped responding. Inside MGM casinos across Las Vegas, something unusual was happening. Digital payment systems froze. Some machines simply displayed error messages. Guests trying to charge meals to their rooms suddenly couldn't. Restaurant systems stopped processing transactions. Hotel room keys began failing. At several MGM properties, guests found themselves locked out of their rooms. Behind the scenes, the company was scrambling. Engineers and security teams were trying to contain the attack before it spread further. But the attackers had already caused serious damage. In order to stop the intrusion, MGM made a drastic decision. They began shutting systems down manually. Servers were disconnected. Networks were taken offline. Entire digital services were pulled offline to stop the attackers from moving further. For a company that relies almost entirely on digital infrastructure, it was like pulling the power out of the wall. And the impact was immediate. Hotel check-ins slowed to a crawl. Employees were forced to process transactions manually. And one of the most technologically advanced casino operations in the world suddenly looked like it had been pushed back into the 1990s. As investigators started digging into the breach, something unsettling began to emerge. MGM wasn't the only casino company that had been targeted. Just days earlier, another giant in the Las Vegas casino world had quietly been attacked. Caesars Entertainment. But their response was very different. According to reports later confirmed by industry sources, Caesars had also been infiltrated by the same group believed to be behind the MGM attack. The attackers gained access. They stole data. And then they made a demand. A ransom payment. Caesars made a decision quickly. Instead of risking massive operational shutdowns, they chose to negotiate. Reports later revealed the company paid around $15 million to the attackers. And the attack stopped. MGM, however, took a completely different approach. They refused to pay, which meant the attackers had nothing to gain by holding back. The ransomware remained active. Systems stayed locked. And the disruption continued spreading across MGM's operations. Over the following days, the company would begin calculating the damage. Lost revenue, emergency security response, system recovery, customer impact. By the time everything was stabilized, the breach would end up costing MGM well over $100 million. All from an attack that started with a single phone call. But as MGM scrambled to restore its systems, investigators started asking a much bigger question. Who actually pulled this off? As MGM worked to restore its systems, cybersecurity investigators began piecing together what had actually happened. Whoever carried out the attack clearly understood corporate IT environments. They knew how help desks worked. They knew how internal access was granted. And they knew exactly how to turn a small opening into full network control. Attention quickly focused on a group known as Scattered Spider. Unlike traditional cybercriminal organizations, this group wasn't a tight-knit team operating from a single country. It was more like a loose online community. Members communicated through platforms like Telegram, Discord, and encrypted chat servers. Some were experienced hackers. Others were newcomers, learning techniques from the group. But what shocked investigators the most was the age of many people involved. Several suspected members were believed to be teenagers or young adults. Not elite programmers. Not intelligence agency operators. Just individuals who had become extremely skilled at manipulating people. Because the real weapon in this attack wasn't advanced malware. It was trust. The attackers didn't need to defeat MGM's security systems. They only needed to convince one employee that they belonged. And once that happened, the rest of the system opened itself. The MGM attack exposed something uncomfortable about modern cybersecurity. The biggest threat isn't always sophisticated malware or highly advanced hacking tools. Sometimes the weakest point in a billion-dollar security system is simply a human conversation. Social engineering attacks have exploded in recent years because they target something technology can't easily protect. People, help desks, customer support teams, employees trying to do their jobs quickly. Attackers understand that if they can sound confident enough, or urgent enough, or convincing enough, someone will eventually trust them. And once that trust is given, even for a moment, it can unlock access that no technical exploit ever could. For companies like MGM, the cost of that trust can be enormous. Investigators later estimated the attack cost the company more than $100 million in lost revenue, recovery efforts, and security upgrades. But the bigger impact wasn't just financial. The attack showed how fragile modern infrastructure really is. Hotels, casinos, airlines, hospitals, banks. Nearly everything now runs on connected digital systems. And sometimes, all it takes to disrupt them is one convincing phone call. The MGM breach will likely be studied by cybersecurity experts for years. Not because it involved groundbreaking hacking techniques, but because it proved something far more important. The most dangerous cyber attacks don't always start with code. Sometimes, they start the conversation. And as long as attackers can manipulate human trust, stories like this will keep happening. If you want to see more real cyber stories like this one, the hacks, the investigations, and the mistakes that made them possible, subscribe to the channel. Because the next attack is probably already happening somewhere right now.